on much in the last few days, which is about DRM and service security. So in the US, there's an entity called the ATSC 3 Security Authority, which is operating certificates and DRM licensing for the broadcasters in the US. And there's another certification program around making sure devices support that properly. And it's something that Jamaica needs to think about. How is it going to use that? Is it not going to require that? There is a issue on the horizon around the devices needing to have certificates and licenses for the future, but that's something that needs to be given some thought, and what Jamaica's position on all of that will be. So the logo scheme is very straightforward. Manufacturers can self-test, or they come to a test center, and we operate one in Shenzhen, so they're close to where most of the manufacturers are doing a lot of their work. They sign up a license agreement with CTA. If necessary, they do the A3SA licensing and so on. They self-test, and then they get a report, and that's where the logo is awarded. So it's not a complicated system. Now, devices. These are the announced device manufacturers that I'm aware of that have got stuff that they've made public that they're aiming at putting out for consumers. There are a few others that aren't on the list that are also in the wings that I can't mention because they're not ready to do so, but there are plenty of boxes out there. So the question is, how do we get the cost down? Well, there's obviously some options of asking them to hit price points that make more sense for you, and with the competition around, I think that's much more possible than it has been. There's also been two other developments. So there's a kind of silicon on a chip solution on a chip from MediaTek that's been announced recently that is kind of ready to go, and they're working on pre-certifying that. And a similar one with Realtek as well. So there are a couple of solutions out there that are really kind of there and ready and waiting for the market. Now, when I was putting this together, the question was, well, what do we need to do to get that from kind of being a picture on a slide deck to being real devices in people's hands? Well, one of the main things we hear is that what the manufacturers who with these boxes are saying, they need orders. They need to know in volume that there's a market out there that needs a sizable number, and they need to know what is it that they need to build that box to support. What are the minimum requirements and features of a Jamaican converter box or set-top box that will meet the needs of the broadcasters and the overall goals of Jamaica's digital switchover? No. We think it should be certified so that you know that it supports the main features of ATSC 3 correctly. Does it have additional power consumption requirements that you want to specify, maybe additional memory requirements to support some of the other use cases that are in mind, and performance requirements? The logo scheme is an ATSC 3 feature specification and test requirement. It isn't going into sort of performance level requirements, but a procurement process that might be kicked off could specify more on that thing, on that area. And we've talked about whether it needs a return path. Should it have a Ethernet port or LTE port? That adds cost, but it has benefits in the long run, and that needs to be a decision that needs to be made. Again, I've mentioned service security and DRM. What's the requirement there? Is it got to be supported in the boxes that go out to market initially, or is it something that can be added later? And does it need the interactive environment? For a lot of the services, there are a broadcaster app in place, and to do that, you need to support that layer. That adds a little bit of extra cost, but it's probably a very valuable part of what you want to achieve. And we need to make people aware. They need to know that they need to have that logo, and that there's a market out there. And by advertising that and saying we're going to tell consumers to go and buy that device with that logo on, that will create the market conditions for people to go and enter that market. So to find out more, come to our pages. Watch Next Gen TV is a really good resource, and Sandy's going to talk a little bit about that in a moment, so I'll let him cover that. Also, the CTA pages talk about the logo, and also a little plug for my conformance implementation team in ATSC, which is working on what are the requirements for that logo and how can we make that fit the needs of the industry. And that's my contact if you want to contact me afterwards. Right, I'm done. Sandy, do you want to talk about the consumer marketing?
Thank you. So earlier this morning, I won't go through it again, but I'm Sandy Kosuch, and I'm chairman of Pearl TV, and we're a consortium in the United States, and it includes 7 major media companies. We've been working together for 11 years, going on 12, first on mobile broadcasting and now on 3.0 for the past 7 years. And rather than work apart, we said we should all work together. Since that time, the networks have joined us: ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Univision, and Telemundo. So we represent about 98% of the TV stations in one way or another across the country. And we work together to bring up this new wonderful 3.0 platform that has many new features. Now, we don't decide business models, but we decide ones that we're going to work on and develop, but the individual companies decide actually how they will drive their business. So much of what we've done is a lot of consumer research and a lot of business research. And so we have thought about, Raymond, what you actually put as a question to us. And when we started down this road 6 or 7 years ago, I was concerned about the cost of next gen TV. Everybody was concerned about it. Exactly what this is going to cost. And I will tell you that I'll date myself here, that back in the early 60s, I bought a color TV, or my parents bought a color TV set, 13-inch, and it was $450. And now, as we were beginning the 3.0 journey, we thought, well, we're not sure what the cost of the devices will be and so forth. But every year that goes by in this 7-year journey, the features come up and the prices are, you can still buy high-end sets, which certainly Young wants you to do, but you can also buy affordable sets too. So I had to say that. Yeah. And so
you don't want to buy a set.
Why not?
It's got ugly.
But I have been totally surprised by, or not surprised, I have each year that goes by, the 3.0 standard gets the equipment manufacturers, the CE manufacturers make it so much better each year. We're able to do so much more each year. And many of my fears have been taken care of. In other words, I think Jamaica is getting into this at the right time. We've worked out a lot of the bugs, and also the price points are getting correct, and it will continue to go that way. So I feel that, I don't necessarily have the exact answer for you today, but I think it's in a lot better shape than when we started this journey earlier, 7 years ago. We have a ad. So part of what we were talking about earlier, that we've done, the TV stations in America actually promote this. And then we promote, and then we follow it up with research. And I want to show for you one of the next gen TV ads that just came out that actually shows the American public using it. And I'll give you an example. In Florida, I just spoke to the Florida Association of Broadcasters. And in Florida, at the end of the year, there were 200,000 3.0 TV sets. There'll be 500,000 by the end of this year. It's a formidable amount. Much of the state has been launched with 3.0 and has a 3.0 signal over it. Miami will launch later this year. but we're finally getting to the point that we have a fair amount of at least the major metropolitan areas covered. A lot of the hinterlands are going to be they're going to take another year or two, but we're starting to market more and more to consumers. The stations actually run this in their actually promotion time, and we are seeing numbers like 75%. Once they see this and understand it, they want to buy a TV set. And in Florida, it's a 40% awareness. This is only after a year. 40% consumer awareness that they actually know of a next-gen TV. So let me see if I can get this too.
We're here with the Johnson family, who just purchased a next-gen TV, and we're going to show you how next-gen TV takes the TV watching experience to the next level. When you buy a new TV, be sure to look for the next-gen TV logo. This means it has built-in features that provide a new free over-the-air service and a whole lot more. As you can see, next-gen TV's stunning video features elevate your viewing experience with 4K HDR ultra high definition video with brilliant colors and a sharper picture with a wider range of contrast. This makes it feel as if you're really there. Next-gen TV amps up the audio experience with the Dolby audio system, giving you immersive movie theater quality sound, consistent volume when you change channels, plus voice and dialogue enhancements.
Will you marry me?
So you get all of the story. Right, Dad? Next-gen TV also brings you new interactive features, so you can watch your favorite shows, news, and live events like never before. With a navigation guide you can even personalize, more informative emergency alerts, and access to deep dives and bonus content, like lifestyle shows and sports, that even Isabel here might think is cool, or rad, or whatever the kids say these days. Lastly, the next-gen TV you purchase today has built-in tech that's upgradable to the advancements of tomorrow. So as new features become available, your TV keeps getting better and better over time. With features coming soon, like the option to select multiple camera angles, the ability to play along with game shows, personalized audio track selection for a listening experience to fit your preferences, and even more enhanced interactive live content. See, the Johnson family is happy with their next-gen TV. So go, get a next-gen TV and get more TV. Sorry, got a little carried away.
All right, so those. So that is one thing Pearl does besides the many things I mentioned this morning, but we work across all these companies to develop marketing campaigns that can be used to promote it. And 40% doesn't sound like a lot. It's not 50%, but after a year, it's actually a huge number compared to other things. 3.0 is much faster growing than color TV was. 3.0 is the fastest growing technology. And with all of us working together, whether it's a CE, the equipment manufacturers, the networks, the broadcasters, everybody, then, you know, actually 75% level of willing to purchase, and we asked them, how much are you willing to pay? They said, we will buy it. And each of them selected a little bit different feature, but those are unheard of numbers. Most products that are put out, if they get 50% of people giving it a thumbs up, they think they got a winner. But we're 3.0 is actually getting 75%.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandy. So I have a few questions that I'd like to ask the panel, and I'd love to get your engagement, but certainly, Amy, if you could look for questions in the audience, I'd love to make this session as interactive as possible. So really, the first question I have, really, it's to Adam Goldberg and Dr. Lim, also to you, Skip. Jamaica is planning to shut off analog in 2023, right? So what is Sony, Zenith, and Samsung doing in terms of device affordability to make sure that a market like this, a third world country market like this, has devices that the majority of the population can afford?
Yeah, well, so because I come first in the alphabet, let me start. For finished products like televisions, Sony, for better or for worse, aims at medium or high priced devices, and I think that works for the U.S. marketplace just fine. But I'm sensitive to the economics down here, and while it might be difficult to make a Sony television really work in this sort of economic environment, Sony is also the manufacturer of a line of ATSC 3 receiver chips that are very well received and reasonably widely used in the marketplace, and things like the set-top boxes that can be made at sold at a price point that works will likely have a chip from MediaTek or something like that, a chip from Sony for the RF reception pieces, and some memory, and in a lot of ways that's about it. So we for better or for worse, we have a focus on the marketplace, but the Sony Semiconductor folks are very busy making affordable and very well featured devices that have silicon devices that have a lot of interesting features that come at almost no additional cost. For example, we have chips that take, for example, 4 antennas, and making use of the 4 antennas, you can get acceptable reception in areas and locations and situations where it's otherwise quite difficult to. So I think that while I'd love to sell lots of Sony TVs in Jamaica, I think that practically speaking, what you're more likely to see is Sony silicon inside of mass market, less expensive television decoder devices for 3.0. And these chips are available now, and there's no reason for me to think that the set-top boxes that will be available hopefully soon would take advantage of that silicon.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Lim, care to opine?
I cannot, like Sony, Samsung has, so many different, models in the market to, satisfy different range of, consumers in the market. So I think, from US market point of view, you can go to Amazon and search, Samsung TV ranging from several $100s to up to $100K, US dollar product. So what we are trying to do, actually, kind of, I heard from our expert, not, something I'm not an expert of. So I heard that, they are, carefully studying the consumer, needs, and then trying to find kind of, various sweet spots so that kind of people just kind of spend, reasonable amount of money for, getting something they really want, right? So, we try not to provide something more, put something more, so that kind of, prices, kind of, the, waste of money of, consumer buying the TV. So that's the reason why we have, so many different, range of, models. So I think, we just heard about, Jamaica decision to go for 3.0, and then we don't know yet, what actually 3.0 Jamaican has in mind, right? It could be, as you can see in Korea, we, when people start to use, ATSC 3.0, that it was, specifically target for 4K, So, we are focusing on the 4K and then not really kind of focusing on the interactivity and so on. And US market, broadcasters are more interested in interactive, services and so on. And probably emergency alert is another one interested in. So probably having more, concise list of the features Jamaicans really wants to have, or Jamaicans really wants to see from the 3.0 TV, should help kind of finding right sweet spot for everybody, so that we can just kind of spend kind of money correctly to provide TV set just fit for Jamaican market.
Okay. And Skip, your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much the same answer. I would say even a little bit differently in LG's case is that even though they do make a wider range of price points and sets than Sony, unlike Sony, which has already enabled 3.0 on its entire line, LG has opted to start at the top of the line and gradually has a roadmap to move down. Now, that's the way you always implement a new technology, a new element. That's what happened with smart TVs. At first, it was the top of the line, and then it became all of them. Things like HDR, 4K and HDR that started at the top of the line, triggered that. It all made sense. It's actually probably not the right way to do a free-to-air enhancement system, because as we were talking about during the break, free-to-air is actually sort of the thing that would help the bottom end of the market more than the top end, because you figure at the top end of the market, the people that are buying those sets also have pay TV, broadband, and so on. And so they may not even be using over the air. They may be watching those channels, but through cable. And so this is an argument that we have internally. And I think the fact that now there's a market that we can really look at like this in Jamaica and say, look, if you want to sell next-gen TV sets down there, you need to certainly enable it through the whole line. But in fact, focus on the low end with the new product, with the new the new elements of 3.0, and not necessarily the high end. And also think about pricing the sets appropriately as well. And then to the final point about that very aggressive analog shutoff date that you mentioned, I think that set-top boxes obviously are really a key component to that solution, because obviously not everybody's going to buy a new TV that quickly. So the set-top box market, which is generally not driven by the 3 or 4, 5 big TV manufacturers, it's a separate, smaller company solution. And you see some of them here. Those have to be a really important piece of that puzzle to get that to work with a voluntary transition in that short amount of time. Final point is you need support for the infrastructure to work. You can't just, send the TVs. You have to have the support infrastructure built for a new country like that. And the final piece, and Bob, this is one piece I think you didn't mention in your very good list there, is retail education, not just consumer education, but education of the people in the stores to understand what next-gen TV. We still have a problem with that even in the US. So it's not a problem. I mean, it's a process that's going on, but it's not complete yet. So we're getting there, but it's step by step.
Yeah. And Bob and Sandy, I know you guys are not TV manufacturers, but care to share your thoughts on any of what's been said so far regarding this?
I mean, all I'll add is we are speaking to several other manufacturers not represented here, and there are a few. Hisense have announced, Skyworth has said they're going to do it eventually. There's a few others, big names, that are not ready to say out loud, but I think we'll be there soon. And I think that will create some competition, frankly, that will cause prices to go down and reach price points that are across the board. And again, as I say, create the market conditions for the guys who are sitting here, some of them in the room with boxes ready to go, to say, look, there's a market there for me to go and get. And I think, as several people have said, I think there's a little bit of work to be done on your side to say exactly what it is you want to be in that first box. If you're going to make something that you're going to distribute for that switchover, exactly what are the features there that are needed, the minimum set, and define that clearly. And then maybe it's a procurement process, or maybe that just is something you put out there that the manufacturers can aim at, and they can all put something out competitively. That may not reach the price point you need it to, but there's a mix there to be had, I think. But you need to do some work, I'm afraid.
No, nothing beyond what I have said before. Oh,
Go ahead. I think there's a question from the audience. Yes, go ahead.
Check, there we go.
All right. If we are to define the features that we need, does it mean that those would be custom built for our market?
No. The question is, are you going to go straight with 4K? Do you need that? Or are you going to go to HD? Are you going to require the interactive environment in that box? Or can you do without it for the first few years? Are you going to launch services that need those things or not? It's the features of ATSC that are in most of the devices, but maybe aren't necessary in all devices at all price points. Now, these choices affect what services you can roll out immediately, but we may be talking about a box that has a lifespan of 4 to 5 years before the rest of the population has upgraded their TV and got a TV that supports this natively. So there's a decision to be made about the service capabilities, but these are ATSC features, and then they're potentially some sort of aspects like, does it have what kind of return channel does it have or doesn't it have? What kind of ports do you want it to have on the device? That kind of thing.
Yeah, but Bob, I mean, I think that the market here is maybe not so large as they could demand, products designed specifically for Jamaica or for the transitional Jamaican market or what have you. I think I suspect that set-top boxes and HDMI dongles and things like that will be available at a reasonable price point that have, let's say, the U.S. as its primary market, such that Jamaican consumers or broadcasters can take advantage of the volume in the U.S.
Yeah, if I can just go back, that might be true. I think you underestimate the fact that this could be a definition of the box that is needed for the wider industry. That Jamaica could set out the requirements that it has, and that will apply to everywhere else. There is nothing unique that Jamaica may need that other parts of the US might need. I think at a price point that's similar, I would say. So you have an opportunity to set that base standard.
We have another question in the audience.
Go ahead. Is there another question from the audience? Please, go ahead.
Yes. Going by Statins 2020 figures, Jamaica has, say, 967,000 households. So if, let's say, by September, October, we were to be in a position to provide you with those specifications as to what it is we would want from those devices, speaking to the manufacturers now, how soon would we be able to get something to move forward? And of course, well, I know we'll have to factor in what features in order for you to tell us where the price point is at, but if you're able to speak to that and to what extent.
I would start just by saying, I'm assuming it would be a subset of what is possible, not like we're saying anything customer or outside what is inside the spec already. Then it's the process of getting it into the pipeline. Usually manufacturers the major TV manufacturers will get 2 releases a year, but they talk about really one, kind of sort of late in the year towards the holiday buying season. That's the primary one. And that was pretty much locked down about at least 6 months prior to that. So it takes better part of a year to get anything from a list of elements into an actual product. Again, assuming it's already from existing checkbox of elements, which generally is now working its way through with ATSC 3 in most of the manufacturers that we're talking about here. And then, working that out with the price point too. Price point is important as part of those specifications, of course. And that's the key target to seeing how much you can make that happen. Another point, though, just separate from that drives prices down, of course, is demand. And demand is driven by, in the ecosystem of television, the entire element. It's not just purely consumer driven. Consumers are, most of the products that are out there that are new aren't delivered by pure consumer demand. There's something that you have to stimulate, and broadcasters have a real important role in that. And like in the U.S., it's a chicken and egg always for something like this. The broadcasters realize they have to be I guess it's the chicken, in the sense they had to go out there first and put programming out, even though they knew that there weren't any receivers yet, to develop the marketplace, right? And so that seems to be important, I think, for any market. So that's why it's, I think, smart, as it looks like it's the plan here for Jamaican broadcasters, to go ahead and start the service up, get stuff out there that makes it really something that consumers would want to have, as opposed to just having the stick of the analog shutoff to stimulate. You want the carrot that dangle to say, this is cool new content. And then the final element is subsidy through educational opportunities, emergency alerting, so all those kind of public service things that we've been talking about here and there. And I think that if all those things work in the right order, you can get it done, and done well, and done quickly.
Question from Madeline?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so
Adam, sorry.
I think that generally speaking, CE devices talk about 18 months, between 18 months, a year and a half, between defining a feature set and having a product ready for sale. I think that there's a number of things about as I understand the market here, many folks will already have 16:9 HD capable displays, I believe. And so a lot of the advantages to a digital system, 1.0, 3.0, whatever it is, includes HD and 16:9 format, and that can be achieved on existing devices that I presume are here, like the one in front of us that has a 1.0 receiver, or maybe an ISDBT receiver or something that can connect to a set-top box to do it, thereby sort of decreasing the household cost. But in addition, though, while I agree that it's good to know what you need or want in the devices to support the services and businesses that you have in mind, I think that for speed and price reasons, it may be more important to identify the more advanced features that you don't want, things like channel bonding and
MIMO.
MIMO and other things like that, which while they're nice to have, they're going to be less widely included in products and more expensive. But a simple device with the existing feature set, sort of the mainstream feature set, is maybe sufficient to certainly to get going in Jamaica or any location similar.
So you mentioned the 18-month, I'm sorry,
Well,
Bob, but you mentioned the 18-month delivery cycle, right? From the time of inception for the order to delivery.
Well,
Manufacturing?
no, I mean, it's from the time of selecting the features that go into the device through all the engineering and manufacturing until there's a box ready for sale.
Okay, but that doesn't factor in supply chain delays that we.
Right. I mean,
So-
it's a crazy time for sure, and it's hard to predict that stuff. Supply chain problems, logistics, transportation logistics problems, and all of that is will certainly affect.
Yeah, just trying to give a realistic picture.
Yeah,
Right,
in terms
right.
of
But
what
the rule of thumb we use is about 18 months.
So somehow kind of, 18 months is interpreted a little bit differently, company by company. But, in our case, whenever, we finalized the kind of, model definition by summer this year for next year. So, probably kind of, 2023 model, lineup has been already kind of almost finalized by this time, summer 2022. Then we announced the kind of, new models and new features in the early 2023 through CES. And then, some kind of, beginning month, region by region. And for most likely US market, biggest sales come to the end of the year through the kind of Black Friday or, some other kind of, sales event, right? So, so when we announce the kind of, new model at the beginning of the year, that doesn't mean that kind of everything is ready by that time. So that, that's the time people start to mass product actually that device defined, introduced in the beginning of the year, and then be ready to sales by almost end of the year. So, that's somehow kind of 18 months life cycle of, TV model rollout in our case.
I just want to say, I think that's all true for a new or a TV that is yet to be built, and that's a cycle that's different. I think if we're talking about a set-top box that is basically, there are several around here that you've seen that are there ready to go, and I think they're a lot more able to just spin up and go on the point at which there's an order placed. What we're probably talking about here is something that's already there and maybe taking a few things out of what it's already got. And so it's not quite the same challenge that we're talking about here with a new model coming to market. But there is a delay. There is a time frame there that still is going to be affected by silicon shortages. And so no time like the present to get on with defining that and getting it out there. If that's what you need to achieve your deadline, you need to come to a decision quickly on what that is.
So given some of the conversations we've had, one second, Madeline, the conversations we've had over the last 2 days about the importance of things like distance learning and public safety, emergency alerting, how important that is to the Jamaican people and its economy. What do you think would be a reasonable price for a set-top box that handles those features, right? And probably gives some of the other key components of ATSC 3.0 to an analog TV.
Well, it's not low enough even for the U.S. market right now. As it turns out, we're looking at $200 price points for ATSC 3 fully featured set-top boxes, like you're talking about there. And those set-top boxes, a lot of times when we're talking about gateways, they're sort of the high end of the set-top box, so they have multiple tuners in them. They're addressable. They have Wi-Fi built in. You don't need all that for a basic set-top box. Just single tuner, antenna in, HDMI out, power. That's really pretty much it. And then, so we haven't seen those really that basic much yet for.
Mark is waving one at the back of the room.
Mark's waving. He's waving one back there. Try video.
And they're, but it's, yeah, the Zinwell, right? Yeah. And so
What's the
that's
Zinwell price, Mark? Under $100, Mark
good.
says.
And that we're looking to see 50, I would think, is a target. And I think, I'd hope that, given your, comparison of the GDP averages there, 50 may still be high for this market. So we need to get it even below that for, really universal kinds of deployment here. So it'll be a process. But a lot of that stuff can happen fairly quickly. Once it gets going, it builds on momentum. Supply chain elements, issues right now notwithstanding, may slow that down. But basically, we've seen the ATSC 1 set-top box now down in the $20, $30 or less range. Not that there's a huge market for it anymore, but that's fully mature and that's kind of bottomed out. And so we hope 3.0 gets there quicker, at least with that baseline. Again, people are looking at this as a high-end new product, right? And in this specific case, it may be the opposite, the wrong way to be looking at it. But it's got to start somewhere and work its way down.
Madeline, you had a question? Was there a question in the audience?
No, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
This is a question for Sandy. So recognizing that in the US, even these markets that are converted to, you're like blinded by these lights. Let me do this. There we go. Recognizing that in the US, even in the markets that are lit up, only 20 to 25% of the bandwidth is used for 3.0 because we are simulcasting 1.0 on our existing systems. And we can't reclaim all that bandwidth for 3.0 until the 1.0 stuff is shut off. And we can't shut off all the 1.0 stuff until the audience is ready with 3.0 boxes. So with all that in mind, do you envision that Pearl TV would be wanting to work closely with Jamaica to together design that item that's going to help both the US market finish the conversion and help the Jamaican market also finish the conversion? Do you see that as a synergy?
As far as to get where you're talking about, first, I've been amazed that as we started out, we thought we'd have more challenges that, the compression that was available to us when we started to design these markets was at 1. Well, now it's at 3. And so as we design these markets and transition these markets, then we find them a lot easier. The other thing is that as I look at the cost of the stations buying their equipment, I'm actually seeing that decline. So over the past 2 or 3 years, much of that has happened. So we're at the point that we've sort of, as Madeline says, we're at 50%. We are now ready to say, okay, we've sort of got this launching really sort of set. We understand it. Compression will continue to pick up. Cost will come down. And we are looking for partnerships to figure out how to take it to the next step, whether that's a content partnership or a business partnership or a technology partnership. We have areas even in the United States that would need set-top boxes, right? That, out in the hinterlands or other areas that we could potentially do that, or certain segments of the population. So we sort of feel like we've gotten the top layer, the first 50%. Now we got to start working on, and actually I would say it's the bottom 50. The top 50 is going to be harder to get. So that will require partnerships, learning from each other. And so that's why we're actually very interested in what Jamaica is doing, and to, wherever we can help you, we, certainly Pearl created the security authority. We're looking at data information as far as what we could do with data. And we also have a platform that all this sits on. And those are things that we can either do tests with or do partnerships with. But certainly, we don't have all the answers in the United States. And if it's a partnership that we're working together with, whether it's other countries or whatever it may be, then we definitely want to do that, because now we've sort of gotten the basic launch mostly done. And we're making plans for 2023 and 24. So it's a good time for us to have those discussions.
So I had a question to go back to the question of affordability of devices, because I would imagine India, economically, the parts of India would be similar to Jamaica to some degree, not really a third world country per se, but relatively poor, right? So how did India do it? Could any of you guys speak to that? How did they end up procuring set-top boxes, devices? Madeline? Maybe we can learn from some of that experience.
Well, truth be told, they didn't. And this is one of the reasons why they're looking at another system. They launched 19 cities with DVB-T2 with an intention to launch 43 cities with DVB-T2, but they stopped at 19 because the consumer device question was never solved. And the truth is that they have DVB-T2 on the air and nobody's watching it. It's the truth. And so now Prasar Bharati is recognizing that. This is one of the reasons why the India implementation team worked so hard, because in some ways they thought that if they built it, then they'll come, and they didn't. And so Prasar Bharati is now kind of once bitten, twice shy. And they told the Indian implementation team, you're going to show us this and this and this and this. And by the way, we want to see a variety of receive devices and a variety of broadcast air chains before we will even put a green checkbox next to this. But in India, again, they are looking at the mobile solution because that's what the people use. In Jamaica, people have television sets. And they have television sets, as I understand now, that are digital television sets, 16:9 with HDMI inputs, which makes them prime candidates for the set-top boxes that you see around the room here. So I think that this market is very different from India, but I think that the lesson we learned from India is it is possible to fail at this. It is. It happens. And it's incredibly important to have these conversations that we're having right now, because if we walk into this with the head in the sand, then it could fall. But I think that with this group, by the way, do you guys realize Sony, Samsung, and LG are on the stage together? I'm just saying, talking about collaboration here, right? But with these
Sometimes we're even in the same car together.
Wow.
Sony paid me.
That's a story that he's done.
But these are the kinds of conversations that are critically important. And the work that Sandy's describing about helping the consumer understand, did Prasar Bharati do those things? I don't know. But yeah, the answer is it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, we're about to wrap up. I want to give everybody an opportunity to ask any questions that might be lingering out there. This is our last session of the day. We've got a captive audience. If anybody has anything to ask or query, now is the time. Going once, twice.
Yeah, if I can a little bit, add. I mean, while you're waiting for kind of others to ask questions, I mean, so we are so much interested in, satisfying the consumers, right? So as I mentioned at the beginning, you just want to put something in the TV, consumer use it every day, and the consumer just kind of happy with, right? So as Madeline pointed out that if there is a kind of service in the air, but no consumer wants to watch it, no consumer even understand what's going on, then we just don't want to put it there, and it's waste of money for everybody. It's a waste of money for the consumer buying that TV with unusable feature, and it's a waste of our money to put that thing in the TV as well. So I think it's very important that as a community or broadcast industry in Jamaica to understand what needs to be delivered to the consumer as a feature, what they need, and then what can be a kind of feature beneficial for the consumer in the market. Yep. So then I think if that is very clear and then everybody understand, it's a kind of important feature, then I think we will be more than happy to support it and then find a right way to make a price point, reasonable for everybody. I mean, if maybe you are, curious about that, why, Samsung is so aggressively putting, 3.0 into the TV set. One of the things we have found out in the US market very interesting is that, household has more than one TV set at home. You may understand that kind of, everybody in US mostly have, 3-4 different sets. And then, because, US household, mostly watch kind of, program through the satellite or cable, on top of OTT. And for the second or third TV, they don't want to hook up, cable or satellites. They just want to rely on the terrestrial TV for a second or third TV. So that's a kind of, huge market or huge need from the kind of consumer. They want to watch, kind of better over-the-air content. So I don't know what's the kind of unique feature, unique kind of characteristics of Jamaican broadcast industry. But if you can find something useful for everybody, then I think that will be really helpful for market.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank our panelists for a very spirited conversation. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And next, we'd like to invite Madeline to come up to kind of close out the day with some closing remarks and observations. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. What I really want to do is turn the podium over to Amy to address you this evening before our networking event starts. But I want to kind of underscore what Young said at the end there. Skip said it's a chicken and egg. It's not a chicken and egg. It is a three-legged stool, right? And by that I mean you've got to get broadcast stations on the air. You've got to get receivers into people's homes. But if there's not good content on the air that people are excited about, it's going to be very difficult to convince the consumer to spend even $5 on a device. Why would I spend even $5? Cordell wants me to say that again. If you don't put something really good on TV, then they're not going to spend even $5. And, we face this in the US market as well, in that, I have a fear that we have 50% of the broadcasters on the air, and we've got, devices being sold into the marketplace, and you get the early adopter out there. They're excited. They're in one of these markets. They go out and buy a beautiful new television set from one of these 3 manufacturers, and they turn it on, and they say, it looks the same as it used to. And then they go and tell all their friends that, right? So we don't want to be there. And what's interesting is that in Korea, as Young pointed out, there was one marketing message, 4K. That was the marketing message. They didn't sell next-gen TV. They didn't say we're doing a new digital standard. They didn't say any of those things. They said 4K. That's all they said. And the market said 4K. Yeah. So to the consumer, they didn't know, they didn't care, any of this technical stuff, nothing. 4K. Okay, buy a set. So in the US, it's a lot more difficult. We don't have the bandwidth for 4K because we're sharing spectrum with 1.0. And so we have kind of a mosaic of things that Sandy was describing that are turning on, that are exciting the consumers, the audio, the interactivity, the better video, things like that. And, it's really important that broadcasters take advantage of those things, and that when the consumer looks at the television, they can say, that's nice. I like that. And I'm going to go tell my friends that if you want to watch the football game, come to my house, because it looks better at my house than any place else. And that's the kind of messaging. So we need stations on the air. We need devices in consumers' home, and we need great content. And I think one of the things that Young pointed out is that, and I used to work with LG myself, is that when we are sort of evangelizing within our own company, because Skip and Young and Adam know this, you know, we aren't the ones who are making decisions about the product roadmap. We're there waving the ATSC 3 flag and telling our our colleagues that it's great. Someone else is making product decisions, for sure. And one of the things that Young said was, if I have the thing that you're going to do that's going to get exciting things to consumers that we know is going to be good for them, that's something I can take to my headquarters in Seoul or wherever in Tokyo and say, guys and gals, Jamaican people want this, the Jamaican broadcasters are doing it, and this is a feature that we can sell. So that's something that I would really encourage Jamaican broadcasters to think about. You guys are so lucky. You got your new spectrum to work with, so you've got all the bandwidth to do different things that you want to do. But getting that message in your mind that's simple, that the consumer can understand. Maybe it's not 4K, full stop, all done. Maybe it's more complicated than that, but it's got to be something not only that you're going to sell to the consumers, but that the device manufacturers are going to sell to their product decision makers. It's really, really important. The other thing that I want to mention is that you saw that sizzle reel that Sandy showed. That is a collaborative effort from the broadcasters together. Paid for that, together provided airtime for that, together did the research to find out whether it was a successful campaign or not. And I think that that collaboration, which we've been talking about here in this room, how broadcasters are traditional competitors, but compete on content. Don't compete on the technical platform. I mean, how many people have a website registered with GoDaddy? How many people use network solutions? Who cares, right? It's the website that you care about. And when it comes to ATSC 3.0, broadcasters can work together. We're using ATSC 3.0. We're not going to compete on that. We're going to compete on the quality of our content and how we speak to our communities. So I strongly encourage you to listen carefully to those words. Thank you. Thanks. I'm looking at the broadcasters to see if they're nodding. Cordell's clapping. Well, with those words, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, the wrap-up session. I'm really looking forward to having folks here in the room, up on the stage, telling us what they think and what they think their next steps are going to be, where they see the way forward to be. But for now, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Amy, and she's going to talk a little bit about what goes on under the hood of ATSC and why we're here today.
What happened to our clicker? I promise every time you see me, something fun will happen, but first you have to listen to me chat for a minute. As I was listening to one of the sessions and the questions today, I heard, well, I wouldn't be doing my job as Director of Communications and a marketing professional if I didn't want all of you and your organizations to become members of ATSC. I also do understand that there is a cost to that, and not every organization is able to join ATSC right now or join a team. I do want to share with you a couple ways that we make sure that our community is informed about what we're doing. And these little bits don't cost you a thing. Okay, let's see if I can pay attention to my own advice on clicking. So if you haven't visited our website, atsc.org, I would really encourage you all to do that And I'm a walker, so I'm going to grab a microphone. Thank you. So on our ATSC homepage, we have what we call the slider, and we post anywhere from 4 to 6 articles that are topical. As you can see, Gleaner came out with, and wait, is this? No, this is Claire's press release. So we got a press release and we've already gotten it on our website from 2 days ago. That will scroll and it will just give you various interesting news items. So without spending a dime, all you have to do is go to atsc.org and you can see some of the latest and greatest news in our industry. If you are interested in becoming a member, we have a membership page. And we, as an organization, are transparent. We don't hide how much it costs to be a member. We're not ashamed of how much it costs to be a member. You can see the value of membership just by talking to some of these people in the room. You can read all about it on our website. I just want you to know it's there and it's readily available to everyone. Okay, earlier we were talking about technology groups, implementation teams, planning teams. Again, there is a page on our website called subcommittees, and you can click into that. You can read what the difference is between each one of these groups, and then you can even drill down farther. So under, we call it TG3, Technology Group 3. There are subgroups of TG3. So let's see. TG311 is core network. Damn it. Again, marketing and communications, not an engineer. So my point being is we have several subsets of technology groups, and there is something for everyone out there. So you can even find out more about these groups that you could become involved with. This is one of my favorite sections of the website. The navigation is called Spotlight ATSC 3.0. We've got an About ATSC 3.0. There's a cool couple minute video that we've put together that if you wanted to share it on your station's website or through Twitter, we will allow you to do that. You just have to give us credit for making this video. It's not just for broadcasters. Like Madeline said, I don't even think I worked at ATSC. I think I was interviewing and she's like, you need to watch my video. And so it's like the starting point for everything. Progress report. Here's this cool thing. So when you are a member of ATSC, this is just like an extra. So we were getting ready for NAB this year. It's, the first one back after COVID. Well, I mean, COVID's still here, but let's just pretend it's not for that example. So we said, we understand that not everybody can go to NAB. So we're going to give you a form. If you're a member of ATSC, send us your logo, send us your latest news, and we're going to put together a progress report, and we're going to blast that out to all of our members and say, you want to know what our member organizations are doing? Click here. Come to the progress report. See what everyone is doing. I think the last one, out of those 170 some member organizations we currently have, I think over 40 of them participated. And I mean, it was videos and press releases and stuff that's new. If you are a member of ATSC, we actually, have opportunities for you to come into our booth at CES or NAB and be a part of that, or come visit us or sponsor a happy hour or something like that. There is all sorts of ways that ATSC is here to support you. Deployment page, I'm going to click on that one. So as you can see, and Madeline's already referenced this needs to be updated. We've got our web guys working on it. But we show, like, the minute some city in America gets announced as going live, I can guarantee you within 4 hours it's updated on the ATSC deployment page. People use this page, people visit this page all the time. Okay, here's another one. I know that the stations are all in full swing and getting ready, if not already, going live with your 3.0 signal. But one of the most valuable resources on our page is what's called the host station manual. And Pearl TV, as represented by Sandy today, they've put together this, I don't know, is it 179 pages of best practices as a broadcaster in a station on how to deploy ATSC. Oh, let me back up. Okay. So that's just kind of a quick walkthrough of our website. And again, that doesn't cost you a thing to have access to a lot of resources on our website. And then we have a LinkedIn and a Twitter page. I don't do Facebook because we're a business organization. If you wanted to know about my cat, you should follow me personally on Facebook. But that's not going to show up on ATSC's page. So I know, Pete's cute. So anyway, we've got LinkedIn and Twitter, and honestly, since I've come on board, we are extremely active. And I know I can sit here and say, go to atsc.org. Who the heck has time in their day just to like surf the web and be like, you know what I should do today? I should go to ATSC's website. So if you follow Madeline, if you follow ATSC on LinkedIn, you are going to get basically all those news stories that we've put on our website. You're going to get it in your feed because I'm going to go out and I am going to post that on our social media platforms. And then, a lot of us, I know I do, I check LinkedIn about once a day just to see what my industry and my colleagues are doing. There's a great, quick, free way to get some updates about ATSC. Oh gosh, I forgot to put in a slide about our newsletter. Here's something else. Go back to atsc.org. On the bottom of every single page, it says subscribe to the Standard. We put out a monthly newsletter. Madeline writes a president's memo. We have news. We compile these news stories that have been put on the website. We give you information about, we're going to have a booth at NAB New York. We'll be back at CES 2023. So if you want to know where we are and what we're doing and what's going on, subscribe to our newsletter. You'd get that once a month. Now you don't even have to go to LinkedIn, very frequently. And I absolutely promise you, because I know I'm in a room full of engineers and regulators and professionals, we do not spam you. We do not sell our lists. You will get one newsletter once a month from us, and that is it. Great way to keep in touch with us. And that's it. I just wanted to let you know that there are a lot of resources, whether you join ATSC or not, to kind of keep the flow of information going after we all leave here tomorrow. So thank you for giving me a couple minutes of your time. And now for the bubbly part, happy hour. I'm sorry, I think we call it receptions here. I call it happy hour. We will be having hors d'oeuvres and happy hours and drinks out in the piano room again tonight from 5 to 6. Again, just another great time to socialize with your peers. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, quick thing, 8 to 9 o'clock will be breakfast. 9 to 11 will be our last session. And then from 11 to 1, we will have our closing luncheon. I hope you all can make it back with us tomorrow. And cheers. Let's go have some happy hours. Thank you.